This is the Builders Business Success Podcast for builders who want to attract more quality clients who aren't price-focused, eliminate cash flow pressure, and get paid for every quote. Here's your host, Mick Hawes.
Hey, and welcome to another Builders Business Success Podcast. This is a second show where we've interviewed one of our Builders Business Black Belt members. We're finding that it's all well and good to get the experts in from all of these different areas of video and marketing and all of these sorts of things. But we find that most of the time builders really relate to other builders, people who are in the trenches dealing with exactly the same issues that you are. The solutions that they've been able to implement are far more relatable and applicable to your business. So in this episode, we'll be talking to Cherie Dance. Now, Cherie and her husband Phil have a building business down in Tas. Phil's been in the building business for 30 odd years, had their own business for 10 years, and you'll hear the story when Cherie tells it. Cherie, Phil's wife, also is a licensed builder, which is kind of unique. You don't get that very often. So they both have their own building license, and Cherie looks after all of the admin and the new customers and all of that sort of stuff. Obviously, Phil is on site. And they came through our Blueprint to Black Belt program around about 6 odd months ago, and they were all but ready to chuck it in. And Phil actually found us in a hospital bed. So I'll let Cherie tell that story. But in this episode, we'll be talking to Cherie and also Q&A. One important question that we get asked all of the time, we'll be answering that. So let's listen to our conversation with Cherie. Discussions and thoughts about what's not working in this business and how do we improve it. I mean, you've obviously learned a bunch since you've been in this group, but I want to get into what you were thinking and the discussions you were having before you knew this existed in an attempt to improve your business.
To improve, we had to get. I think I said to Phil, well, if you don't find that momentum to be in business as a builder and the happiness and the experience that you've had, if you don't find that, I mean, he's such a big part of the business. So if he loses it, I mean, even though I'm an accredited builder, if he lost it, well, there was just sort of no point for me to keep going on because he's really the soul of the business. So, you know, I sort of said to him, well, if you don't feel the passion, well, there's just no point. Yeah. You obviously can go get another job. So once I sort of said that to him, he sort of started thinking, well, how do I get the passion back? How do I get the team and myself back to where we need it to be? I mean, we had it officially initially, but then obviously he lost control, things happened, we lost money. Where do we go from here? How do we get that passion back? How do we get the control back and the love of the building industry?
What were some of the first things you implemented, like when you first joined the Blueprint program? What were the first things you started to implement that you noticed started to make a difference?
Getting paid for quotes. Like, you know, we actually talked last night about it. If we had have been charging for quotes 10 years ago, far out would be so much better. And I think that's the main thing is why we lost the passion, because we were doing all these free quotes, not getting paid for it, not going anywhere, and you didn't care. You didn't care when you quoted, quite honestly. But now we're busier than we've ever been in probably the 10 years that we've been building. We care about quoting now. We love it. Like even last night, you know, we've just been under the pump and Phil's just pumping them out. And because he's got the passion again, he's loving it. And I think to the fact that we're getting paid to do what we love to do is very important. So I think that's the biggest thing for us, because we're just spending 5 days a week, fill up on the tools, us quoting, weeks on end, months on end, just quoting, and sometimes not winning the jobs. Yeah. And I think you just didn't put the effort in and you didn't put the passion in to quoting properly because you weren't getting paid for it. Yeah. But now we are. We're taking that time and we're doing it properly and it's working.
So just explain, because, I mean, I know what's happened, but I just want you to explain why you're busier now? Because it's not necessarily because you've got more leads. You may well do, but from what I've been told from Phil, I think I asked him the question some time ago that in sort of that 20-week period, roughly how many quotes would you do? And I think he said 12 to 14. And then I said, how many would you normally turn into jobs? And I think he said, out of 12 quotes, we'd normally get 2 jobs. Since you started charging for quotes, you did your 12 jobs and 10 of them turned in. So that means that you're significantly more busy, like you're quadrupling the jobs that you're getting in that certain amount of time, but with no more extra leads. Can you kind of explain what I just said there?
We were just pumping the quotes out before and just didn't care. We didn't do the follow-up. We didn't do the initial meeting. We didn't make that personal connection. It was just like, yep, send the quote, send your plans through, quote them out. If we won it, we won it. If we didn't, we didn't. We just waited for the next one to come through. But now, you know, we make that official meeting. We get that connection with them. And I think because they're paying, they feel, well, if they don't want to pay, they obviously don't have the connection. And when they do pay, they feel that, yes, they can work with us. So they come on board with us. So I think that is really the key, that they feel they trust us. And I think we've done about 15 fee proposals since Blueprint, and we've lost 3. And we've got to take into account too, we've hit COVID. We probably would have had way more leads if we had the things that we actually do for the business. But the stuff that we're putting out is just, I can't believe that both of us are so focused, and the quotes are getting out quicker. We're winning more, and we've actually had to say no to people because we're under the pump. I mean, we just had a guy just email us just after we got off from you saying that he wants 3 houses built by us.
Just the 3 quick houses, if you wouldn't mind, before Christmas also.
Yeah, it's just changed our lives pretty much.
One of the things that Phil mentioned to me, and if you can sort of outline this as well, this was a few weeks ago now, and you must have kept a spreadsheet, that the money that you got paid for the fee proposals was at that point about 25 grand. It'd be good just to make the point that to get that same $25,000 net profit that isn't used for anything else in the bank, how much work would you have had to have completed to get that same amount of money in the bank? Because that I think this is a really important point. If you think about what you've achieved just through doing that, there's $25,000 sitting in a bank, and you've done 0 more work than you would have traditionally. But to get an additional $25,000 in the bank using the old method, how much work would have had to have been completed to get that 25 grand in the bank?
Gee, it's a hard question. It'd be years. Look, honestly, we've probably never had that money in the bank. It's always been scratchy, month by month. Gee, we haven't got enough money to pay bills. Now we've got the profit account, which is just sitting there. And, you know, we did have a little sneak peek the other day. We probably shouldn't have done what we wanted to see.
You're allowed to look at it. That's the whole idea. You look at it and rub your hands like Scrooge McDuck. You know,
we're only been putting 1% in, and it's, you know, $18,000 we've got in there, and we've never ever had that. We've never, and now we've got money in the bank above what, you know, we know exactly. Well, I know exactly what bills are coming in, and I know that the money's there. Plus, we've got over 100,000 left over, and it's like, wow, you know, I reckon the first 12 months we had that. Then after that, we never really had that. So for us this year's just been just mind-blowing. Like, it, you know, we're happier. We're happier as just not only as business partners, but as a family and in whole.
If we go back to before you jumped into Blueprint, what, if any, were your or Phil's reservations? Like, sometimes, I mean, people say if it sounds too good to be true, it often is. Maybe what you were thinking that was going to be delivered in Blueprint was too good to be true. What was the doubt, scepticism, thoughts, hesitation? Tell me about your thought process back then.
before Blueprint, we was in a really bad place, obviously, mentally wise, business wise, marriage wise. And then when Phil found Blueprint, I was very sceptical. Philip was, but obviously because he had the time, he could listen to a lot of podcasts and everything that you'd done. I thought, oh, well, I'm laying in a hospital bed, might as well watch something. So he watched
it. Was either me or The Price is Right.
Yeah.
It's a no-brainer.
So he watched it, and when he come home, he said, oh, I've just found this guy, this dude, and I want to have a meeting with. And I went, Phil, serious? How are you going to change the building industry? How are you going to quote? We're not going to win any work. We're going to be worse than what we were. I said, I just can't see how you can ask someone to pay for a quote when everyone else does it for free. Anyway, I just thought, well, let's do it. What do we got to lose? Well, we're in a bad place now. Let's just give it a crack and see. And then even our first initial meeting, I was very sceptical because I think of things that have been happening. Still don't believe it, really. It was more Phil that wanted to pursue it. So I said, that's what you got to do in business. You've got to back each other. So I said, let's give it a crack. And I probably 2-3 weeks in, I thought, wow, I'm a different person. I feel better. I feel better about us. I feel better about the business. I think we were 2 weeks in when we did our first fee proposal and we got paid for it. And it's just like, I couldn't believe it. It was just amazing. Probably still don't really believe it, but, I look at that spreadsheet and look how much we have actually spent sending out fee proposals. I think it's over 60 grand now. You win some and you lose some, but the ones that you lose, you don't want, because obviously they're not the right fit for us. But the ones that we've won are the right fit, and we've made great friendships out of the clients that we have actually got. So it's definitely changed our life by joining up. But we was very sceptical, I must admit. Yeah, come out the other end now.
I just remembered Phil saying he's never read a book before. Tell me what happened and what you were observing before and after Phil started reading.
Yeah, well, the first book, yours, he read in, I think, 4 nights. And I just thought, oh, this is just, I wonder how long this is going to last. and then he sort of growled at me because I didn't read it. Yeah. So I did it in 1 night.
I was going to say 4 nights is a long time. It's got big writing and lots of white space and a fair few pictures. It shouldn't take 4 nights.
So anyway, I read it in 1 night. I thought, yeah, this is great. So then I think there was a lot of other books that you had in your book. So I said, you need to go buy them, which I did. And then we got on a roll. We kept buying it. So we've got a little mini bookshelf in our room now. And he gets one, and every night he was going to bed early reading. And I think the biggest thing for me is I went in there one weekend and I thought, what? He was in there reading on a weekend. Didn't go fishing, didn't go out, didn't do nothing. And I just went, a few of his mates turned up and said, where's Phil? And I went, in bed, reading. And they went, are you kidding? What's wrong? Is he sick? And I went, he's not sick, but I think he is sick. So that was mind blowing. And, and now he's Googling other books. And so, yeah, he's just reading all the time and he's learning more. He's pretty clicked on, Phil, but great builder, but business side was never really, I did it all, and he wasn't passionate about that side, which made it even harder for me because I knew he's a great builder, but I said, you don't see the other side. But now he's working with me within the business and he can see other sides that I already saw. So how hard it was. The easy part is building the house. Yeah. That's all the things that you've got to do before that and after. So, yeah.
So final question, because there are people that be watching this, people in the Builders Business Success Forum, Facebook group, all of that, they're listening to you. Even though I'm not saying it, you're saying it, they'll go, they're skeptical, that might have been all right for them, but it won't work for me because, what have you got to say to someone who's who is suffering, who isn't being paid what they should be. They don't have time for themselves, and they're thinking, should I, shouldn't I?
We thought that too. So when you're in a bad place, like we were, we didn't have anything to lose. It was either, okay, we can do something to try and better ourselves and the business, or we can just shut up. And I knew that Philip didn't want to do that because he, like I said, he loves the building industry. So we had nothing to lose. It was either lose everything and go get a job, and I know Philip didn't want to work for someone else. So we was at the stage where I was willing to do anything to change his mindset and passion for what he always had since I think he was 16 when he started building. So, to lose something that he was so passionate about, really hurt me because he's great at what he does. There's so many builders out there, and Phil's probably a very rare one. He's a bit old school and he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. And to lose that would be not only hard for us, but for the building industry. So what have you got to lose? You can only try, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But for us, we will be forever grateful for you and Julie, obviously, and because it's just a great group to be in. And I think you get to a stage in the building industry, you think it's only me. This is only happening to me. These things, hard clients, doing all the work and not getting paid for it. I'm the only person, but it's not. We're all in the same boat, and it's nice to have that, someone to hold your hand sometimes if you're having a bad day or a good day, and you're not the only one that's going through it. So,
well, the absolute final question. What are your thoughts on the group? Like, we just had a momentum call just now. I'm still amazed how many people show up to these momentum calls every single day. What's been your experience having met and sort of connected with these other builders in the group? What's that meant to you?
Oh, it's great. It's like having another family. So, and it's good to hear everyone else's story, and it's good to be able to see people changing and happiness and more positive attitudes. I think that's the main thing. And if you are having a down day, it's good to get on to talk to someone and they just boost that straight up again. And, I think that's very important because, every day isn't perfect. You are going to have days where and things are going to go wrong, but to have those guys just for backup and just to have a chat to them, sometimes we ring each other if we need to have a chat or you're just feeling down. So I think it's important. It's just, like I said, it's like having another family.
One of the questions I get asked all of the time is, how can we have a profitable business when all of our customers are focused on price? They make decisions based on price. To me, there's two questions there. The first one is, how can we be profitable because people are focused on price? The answer to that is people aren't focused on price. The majority of people, by far the majority of people, that they make decisions based on value, their perceived value, not the price. And so the key to that, the answer to that, is to learn how to represent value rather than constantly having this focus on price. So what's actually happening is the customer isn't focused on price. They've only been trained to be focused on price. The builder comes and starts to talk about the project, talk about budget and so on and so forth, and eventually, inevitably, the conversation comes around to price, and that's where it stays. The thing is, from a psychological perspective, people will make decisions based on their perception of value. So the art and the key is for you to learn how to represent that value. The second part of that question is, what is profit? We work with a ton of builders with this. In fact, we have a process when a builder applies to Builder's Business Black Belt and they get accepted, we pay for them to get put in front of a profit first professional who does a complete pulling apart of their finances, their pricing, how they manage their cash flow and so on and so forth. And with all of the builders that we've put through that process, guess how many builders have come back having even made a profit? The answer may surprise you. It's zero. Not one builder was making profit according to the Profit First process. And what that means is that profit, according to Profit First, is in a bank account. It's not earmarked for anything. Its only purpose is to reward you for the risk and the sacrifice and the effort that you've put into running your business. It has nothing to do with the entry on your profit and loss sheet under the profit column. That is smoke and mirrors. That is being put together to give to the ATO for your tax position. But it certainly doesn't reflect how much profit you've got, because how many times has the accountant said you've made $100,000 profit or whatever the figure might be, and then dropped that money into your hand? There it is, it exists. I'll guarantee everybody listening to this, if they've had that conversation with their accountant, that money doesn't exist anywhere. It is a fictional, a notional amount that's on your profit and loss. The answer to the question is you're not making any profit anyway. But if you want to make profit, you've got to implement the Profit First system, and you've got to learn the art of representing value to your clients and taking the focus away from price. They don't want to focus on price. They want to focus on value. It's just a traditional way that builders have their conversations with their prospects always comes back to price. So I think the takeaway for this show, and this is fresh in my mind because just before we recorded this, we were doing our last momentum call for 2020 with our Black Belt members. So we have a daily call. It's an hour every day. And I just said to them, I'm amazed every day that so many builders turn up for a whole hour in the middle of their day, 11 a.m. till 12 midday, and invest time in sharing their wins, their lessons, asking questions and working on their business an hour every day. It's pretty profound. But one of the things that we talked about was doing what everybody else is doing and trying to do what currently builders are doing, but doing it better. I don't believe is the answer to a successful business. And I mentioned Tony Robbins many, many years ago in the 90s, mention a quote from Walt Disney. And he said that Walt Disney was heard to have said, if you want to be successful, look around and see what the world is doing and don't do it. And then Tony went on to add to that. He said what he uses as a base place to start with being successful in any area of life or business is look around and see what the world is doing, or the industry is doing in this case. And he said, do the opposite. And when you look at how most builders run their building business, how they communicate with their clients, where they prioritize their focus, if you were to do the opposite of that, you could be very, very successful. It's a good place to start. So look around and see what the building industry norms are, and look at what the opposite might be, is my takeaway from this podcast. Okay, I talked about in the Q&A, Profit First. I talked about value versus the price and so on. And there is a process, a step-by-step process. It's a proven process. We teach it in our Blueprint program every day to our Blueprint members, how to change the focus and how to learn the art of being able to represent value rather than having the focus on price. Also learning how to manage and measure your finances differently, so you end up with genuine profit, actual money in the bank that's only meant for rewarding you for your efforts, your sacrifices, in the challenges of running a business. If that is something that you would like to implement into your business, all you need to do is reach out and we have a conversation to find out, firstly, if how we do things is the right fit for you. That's the first thing. You know, most people go, well, how much is it? Well, that's kind of irrelevant. You know, let's say it was $10, but it showed you how to make $100. Would you do it? Let's say it was $10,000, but it showed you how to make an additional $100,000. Would you do it? It's all about the investment and the return on the investment. That's the question that should be asked about price. But the first question that you should be asking is this the right fit? Do we do things the way that would work for you, that would help you? And that's what this initial conversation is about. The reason that we've got people in our program, and we've had people in our program for years and years and years. In fact, our longest suffering member is about to move into either his 15th or his 16th year with us. If it wasn't good value, I don't know that people would hang around for that amount of time. So to me, that question isn't all of that relevant. What is relevant is, are we the right fit? So let's jump on a call and find out if we are. So you can ask all of the questions. We can find out about your business and figure out if how we do things is going to benefit you and your business. You can do that just by hitting the button underneath the video here, or you can navigate to buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au if you're just listening to the audio only version of this podcast. And on the website there, you'll see schedule a call on the top of the web page. That will take you to a form, lets us know a little bit about your business, and then you can schedule in that short call to see if we're the right fit. We hope we're going to be talking to you in person real soon. That is it for this episode of Builders Business Success Podcast. I almost forgot the name of the podcast. We've been doing it for a long time and almost forgot it again. But anyway, that is it for this episode of the podcast. I'm Mick Hawes from Builders Business Black Belt. Bye for now.
Okay, that's the podcast. If you have a question or want to know how Mick can help with your building business, email your request to mick@buildersbusinessblackbelt.com.au. Do it now.